Get away from my car! Bro, get away from my car. I have a daughter in Brooklyn!
Alright, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about the craziness that happened in New York just today. As this article states, hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters were arrested after blocking New York bridges and tunnels. And as you can see from the opening clip there, this gentleman was trying to go from Manhattan back to Brooklyn to pick up his daughter, and these people were blocking. Now, there seems to be some sort of coordinated, disruptive attempt, because it wasn't just one area. It was a total of 4 tunnels and bridges that were targeted, as you're going to see in this news clip.
And we begin with breaking news. More than 100 people under arrest after pro-Palestinian demonstrators blocked some of the main ways out of Manhattan, creating a traffic nightmare.
The Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, the Williamsburg Bridge, and the Holland Tunnel, all briefly shut down by protesters. They've all been reopened now.
At least 120 protesters were arrested at the Holland Tunnel alone after they blocked a New Jersey-bound passage.
And just look at this. This was the scene at all 4 of those locations right around 9:30 this morning. A chaotic scene across Manhattan.
Eyewitnesses report Lauren Glassberg live at the Brooklyn Bridge with the very latest. Lauren.
Yeah, David and Charlene, we are on the Manhattan side of the Brooklyn Bridge, and traffic was allowed to finally pass through about 45 minutes ago. You take a look behind me, and there's really no sign that there was a protest here earlier today blocking all of those cars. That protest, again, as you said, targeting 3 bridges and 1 tunnel. Let's take a look at the Holland Tunnel now. It was blocked by a line of people. They actually blocked a number of areas from Canal to Hudson Street. That caused backup of cars on Canal and Hudson Street and over to the West Side Highway. This happened at about 9:30, 10 this morning, and less than an hour later, police were able to move in and make arrests. We understand that they made 120 arrests, 120 people arrested just at the Holland Tunnel, and that tunnel has reopened since. It was also a similar situation over at the Williamsburg Bridge, where cars could not get across because of protesters there. In fact, at the Williamsburg Bridge, protesters, we understand, locked themselves to the bridge and had to be cut free by police before they were arrested over there at the Williamsburg Bridge. And all of this was really frustrating to drivers. We saw one incident where a driver really had no patience for the protests and just wanted to get where he was going. And we heard from some drivers who were frustrated by the impact this was having on their commute.
I gotta pay rent, I gotta go to work, I got a mouth to feed, a young son. I can't do anything about Netanyahu and his war. I would like them to move.
This is wrong, this is crazy. People are gonna lose their jobs behind this. I'm one of them. I live in Williamsburg, I can't even get home.
And the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges also closed by traffic by protesters, closed to traffic by protesters. Both have since reopened. Again, this was a pro-Palestinian protest, a call for Israel to end its war on Hamas. Israel has, by the way, scaled back its battling even in the last day, but it is still looking to destroy Hamas after the October 7th attack in Israel. Hamas still holding more than 150 people. So that is the latest. All the bridges and the tunnel finally reopened after this morning's protest.
You're disrupting traffic, idiots. You can't do that. That's against the law. I'm not just going to throw a fist at you, bro. I'm not going to run you over. Get away from my car, bro. Okay. Get away from my car. Bro, get away from my car. I have a daughter in Brooklyn. Don't touch him. Get the fuck out of the way. Run him over. Don't touch him. Get out of the way. I have to get home.
Now you can see there clearly it wasn't just that one individual father who was pissed off, you know, getting very frustrated, yelling, telling these people to get out of the way and move. As that one guy stated, like, what are the people of New York gonna do about what Netanyahu is doing over there? I understand these people want to protest, but there's a time and a place and a way of doing it. This is just like those climate activists that just stop oil people who start pissing off everybody, and then more and more people care less and less about your cause or about what you're protesting about, because you're just making everyone's life a living hell and an inconvenience. Now, I'm happy that at least in New York, they had the balls enough to arrest these individuals. I think they made over 300 arrests, like 120 in one specific place. For, again, as the father said, it's illegal to block the road. However, yesterday in Seattle, I don't know why, the troopers, the police force, nobody, I understand they say that they didn't have enough and they were waiting for backup, but it shouldn't have taken as long as it did, as the I-5 was closed for over like 4 hours, even impeding emergency services like an ambulance that you'll see in this video. And a lot of the drivers just ended up turning around on the highway and leaving because these people were just blocking the actual freeway.
I'm Michelle Esteban. A huge traffic disruption in Seattle today as pro-Palestinian protesters blocked the northbound lanes of I-5 in Seattle for nearly 5 hours. The group of about 100 protesters stood in the freeway between Denny and Olive and also used vehicles to block the road. KOMO's Paul Rivera was there as this all played out. Paul, take us, if you will, through the day here.
Well, Michelle, the protesters told me they want a ceasefire in Gaza, and they were ready to cause a disruption in order to achieve that goal. Well, they certainly did cause a disruption today, although some drivers who were out there today might disagree strongly with their methods. Let's take you back. This all started around 1:30 as the protesters made their way onto I-5, chanting that they want to stop to what they call genocide in Gaza. Drivers, they had to be detoured onto I-90. At one point in the afternoon, we saw an ambulance stuck in traffic. Other first responder vehicles, too, were trying to get through the area. This continued for hours as State Patrol calmly stood far away and allowed them to continue to block the interstate. A dispersal order was issued by Seattle police. It was not followed. Then a second one was issued, which was also ignored.
What do you say to people that are just everyday Seattleites trying to get somewhere that are upset you're causing this disruption?
So we hear you, and we apologize for the inconvenience. I'm sure that the goal and the target is not commuters, is not average people trying to get from A to B. So we invite those people to examine the complicity of the U.S. government that we live in the genocide that's going on in Gaza. We invite them to look at what is actually happening.
Now, while it is illegal to block the interstate, Washington State Patrol told me tonight in a statement that no arrests have been made, but they did say they are still investigating. They also say they have information now on those 12 vehicles that were left behind. Michelle, they said it took so long for law enforcement to move in and to break this up because they say they didn't have enough resources and they needed to call extra troopers in.
Protesters have blocked the I-5 highway in Seattle. Check it out. The SPD is on the megaphone telling the protesters they're going to get arrested if they don't move. Here's another update on the Seattle I-5 protest. Cars have literally reversed direction on the freeway to get out of here. The plan is to continue holding, though, even though traffic got rerouted. And the protesters have formed a marching circle. Yeah, there are no plans of this stopping anytime soon, so I'll keep posting updates. The time is 4 p.m. Here's another update on the Seattle I-5 protest. The police are approaching. As you can hear, people are very upset at them. There are still hundreds of protesters here blocking the freeway. These 5 cops here think they're doing something just by standing here. The freeway has been shut down for around 3 hours at this point. And to those of you saying that, oh, this isn't the right way to protest, your anger means the blockade is working.
Now, as I stated, I'm for you wanting to protest. If you have a message that you want to get across, that's fine. But there's a way of doing it, and this is not it. You're becoming very disruptive. You're becoming a nuisance, potentially a hazard, as you're blocking roads, emergency services, people who are trying to get to and from work, family, whatever the case may be. When this is not the places that you should be protesting, you shouldn't be inconveniencing regular day folk with all of this. And if you are, at least do it somewhere that's out of the way. Just here yesterday in Canada, we had the 60th anniversary of the Nathan Phillips Square rink being opened, and as the mayor of Toronto was trying to just open for the ceremonies, have a good time, and people were there to just skate, you had these protesters standing on the side saying, as you skate, bombs are dropping, yada yada. And here, you can take a look for yourself.
I'm so excited for all of you to be here and for me to host the first annual, my first skating party to mark the new year of 2024. And yes, we're gathered here at the iconic Nathan Phillips Square ice rink, which is marking its 60th anniversary later this year.
Oh, your skating bombs are dropping!
Why your skating bombs are dropping?
Oh, your skating bombs are dropping!
Why your skating bombs are dropping?
And this to me is just like that gentleman said. What are these Canadians who are skating going to do? Yeah, they'll say, yeah, I believe in a ceasefire. Say they say that. Is that going to change what is happening over there? No. So targeting everyday civilians and everyday people is not the way to get your point across, especially when you start creating all these inconveniences, these annoyances. Like that gentleman said, oh, the fact that the blockade is upsetting people means we're winning. It's like, no, you're actually losing. You're pushing more people away from your cause that you're trying to promote. But I just don't understand how these people don't put 2 and 2 together. And again, we saw this, as I said, with the Just Stop Oil climate protesters. We saw this with BLM, where they were trying to protest against, cop brutality or cop violence or whatever. But then on the same side, we're rioting and setting fires and destroying things. There's just such a disconnect on what the messages you want to put out there and how you're conducting yourself that is just going to fail overall. But again, that's just my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.